These people have forgotten कि literacy is a privilege. We have not yet freed reading from the schoolroom. जब सोचते थे कि convergence कहाँ होगा तो कंप्यूटर पे होता था. कुणाल कामरा का और एक नया इंटरव्यू निकला है, वो सुना नहीं सुना, क्या कर रहे हो भाई? ये बहुत खराब है. किसी पे जुल्म क्यों कर रहे हो? Tear it up your own. Okay? If we are supposed to hold together as a nation, we have to translate. यहाँ तक कि someone told me on a Hindi journalist told me on a film set, he said यहाँ हिंदी कोई बात नहीं करता. We know even our religion in translation. Parsi is certain. Yeah? Muslims who have to read the Quran in Arabic, our nationalism and our pride is lazy. We don't want to put in the work. AI cannot do it for me. I have to do the work. Because if billionaires don't get headaches, we won't get a cure for headaches.
Yeah. Hey, shut up, ya Kunal.
Shut up, ya Kunal.
Hey, Kunal, chupna.
Shut up, ya Kunal.
Hey, shut up, ya Kunal.
Ya Kunal.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Shut Up, Ya Kunal. Today with us is Jerry Pinto, poet, novelist, translator. I want to go with like writer and winner of so many awards, but then I'm like, the theme that I wanted to base it around is what motivates you to write in this world of reels when nobody is reading.
Okay, I think Kunal सदियों से चलता आ रहा है ये सवाल कि कोई कौन पढ़ रहा है, हमें कौन कोई नहीं पढ़ता. खास करके इस देश में पहला प्रॉब्लम तो लिटरेसी का था. Because we have an economy of information जो संस्कृत पे आधारित है और it was part of the rule of a certain hegemonic group to keep everyone illiterate. This is not just Brahmins, but rulers, everyone wanted people to be illiterate so that they could be guided. Now, independence के बाद क्या हुआ? This is the question everybody asks. Literacy तो बढ़ती जा रही है. People can read. Why don't they read? I think जो लोग नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं वो खास करके अंग्रेजी के रीडर्स और राइटर्स है, राइट? क्योंकि these people have forgotten कि literacy is a privilege. It is a privilege that is given to us and it was fought for. Universal education was fought for. Macaulay से चलता आ रहा है कि you want to create an education system that will make people not think. But reading is that part of education which allows you to think. The demand is that you think. You must participate in the book. अगर आप एक किताब पढ़ रहे हो और उसमें आपको कुछ इंटरेस्ट नहीं है तो आप ऐसे पढ़ेंगे जैसे कि आप एक स्पेक्टेटर है. You're not involved at all in it. This is how most of our reading is done because it is syllabus reading, curriculum reading.
कोई एकेडमिक स्टडी करके सरकार नहीं चला सकता. आई कांट डू दैट. दूसरा क्या होता है, मेरा फोटोजेनिक है. मेरा जब कागज आता है तो यूं मैं ऐसे ऐसे नहीं पढ़ता,
पूरा पेज
ऐसे ही, और मैं ऐसे रख देता हूँ. और बाय एंड लार्ज मैं कभी अभी तक तो गलत नहीं निकला हूँ.
जिस देश का विद्वान ही चूत.
बहुत सारे ऐसे घर होंगे जहां एक भी किताब आपको नहीं मिलेगा जो मजा के लिए है. इट इज ऑलवेज कि आइदर ये धर्म का किताब है या कि ये सेल्फ हेल्प का किताब है. आप कितने मोटे हो, आप कितने आलसी हो, आप कितने ये हो वो हो, एंड दिस बुक विल हेल्प यू नाउ बिकम द वे यू वांट टू बी. तो ये सारी किताबें हैं. There are no books for fun. So the reading that we do is aimed at this. It's aimed at either being someone better in the next life, or it is aimed at being someone good in this life. यही problem है, यही समस्या है. We have not yet freed reading from the schoolroom. Not taken it out into the public domain. And हमारे गांव में libraries कहाँ हैं? There are libraries, for instance, in villages in Kerala. There are libraries in villages in West Bengal. There were libraries in villages in Bihar for the first 10 years after independence. वहाँ बस भी चलती थी. अगर आपके गांव में लाइब्रेरी ना हो, ग्रंथालय नहीं था, तो बस आती थी. हर हफ्ता एक बस आती. Everyone could go and take books and then they stopped it after 10 years. For some reason बंद हो गई.
गरीब अगर अनपढ़ रहेगा
तभी तो भेड़ बकरियों की तरह इन नेताओं के इशारों पे चलता रहेगा। और सभी जानते हैं कि यही अनपढ़ लोग इनका वोट बैंक हैं, जो धर्म और जात के नाम पे वोट देते आए हैं। इसलिए डॉक्टर अंबेडकर ने 1942 में कहा था,
दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम आई थिंक। मैं कह रहा हूँ कि मैं अमाहिम में रहता हूँ, शिवाजी पार्क बहुत नज़दीक है। इसका मतलब नहीं हुआ कि मैं तेंदुलकर बन गया, लेकिन अगर मुझे तेंदुलकर बनना है तो मुझे एक ऐसा मैदान दे दो जहां मैं खेल सकूं। इफ वी वांट रीडर्स, वेयर आर आवर लाइब्रेरीज? एंड मेरे जैसे लोग कहते हैं कि मुझे लाइब्रेरी की क्या जरूरत, मेरे पास घर में इतने सारे बुक्स पड़े हैं, इतने सारे बुक्स कि मुझे TBR है और टू बी रेड लिस्ट, और वो TBR मुझे सता रही है, राइट? कि इतने सारे किताबें हैं और क्यों ले आए। We do not support libraries, Kunal, for ourselves. We support libraries for those who do not have access to books. That's why the library movement is important. इसलिए FLN, Free Library Network, जो दिल्ली में I think start हुआ, but it works in various cities. That's very important to all of us. भले कोई पढ़े या ना पढ़े. The question is not why do you become a writer because you think there's an audience. You become a writer because you want to write. Now अगर कोई है जो पढ़े, मेहरबानी, I'm very glad, because a book is not made a book until a reader reads it. You don't get choices, right? I think if tomorrow there were no readers at all, I would still be writing at home, because वो तो मुझे करना है. This is, I think, partly my luck, partly my privilege, partly just my moment in time, that I have a publisher and a friend, Ravi Singh, who will publish my books, publish my translations. That's why. But this, who knows?
हाँ, मतलब आपकी बात सही है कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन और एक्सेस का तो बहुत बड़ा इशू है, जिसके लिए जो लोग पढ़ना चाहते हैं वो पढ़ नहीं पाते और उनके एक्सेस में नहीं है किताबें। और वही है कि रीडिंग विदाउट अ पर्पस का कल्चर हमारे पास है नहीं। बट अब आपको नहीं लगता कि डिस्ट्रैक्शंस कुछ ज़्यादा ही बड़े हो गए हैं लोगों की लाइफ में, इन टर्म्स ऑफ हैविंग स्क्रीन, सेल फोन? आई डोंट नो ये किसने बोला था, या मैं किसी के साथ डिस्कस कर रहा हूँ या किसी को कोट कर रहा हूँ, but we are the most informed, but the least sure about any information we have.
Absolutely, yeah.
तो ये टाइम तो पहले नहीं देखा गया होगा.
I think you're right. इतने सारे डिस्ट्रैक्शंस और एक ही टेलीफोन पे, लाइक एक ही मोबाइल फोन पे, ये किसी साइंस फिक्शन ऑथर ने भी नहीं सोचा था. जब सोचते थे कि कन्वर्जेंस कहाँ होगा, तो कंप्यूटर पे होता था. You know, it would be that kid sitting in front of the computer, but convergence phone पे आ गया है. मुझे लगता है 20 साल के बाद वो convergence शरीर के अंदर होगा, वो आपका हिस्सा होगा. Because right now, जब मैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स से पूछता हूँ कि माँ से लगाव है, तो वो कहते हैं ज़रूर है. मैं कहता हूँ फ़ोन से लगाव है, मैं कहता हूँ माँ के बिना आप 8 घंटे रह सकते हैं. 8 घंटे फोन के बिना रह के दिखाओ मुझे. 8 घंटे एक फोन किसी और के हवाले कर दो और बैठो कुछ और करो और देख लो, सी हाउ मच पैनिक सेट्स इन. क्योंकि अभी मुझे लगता है दरिया सा बह रहा है, एंड अगर मैं दरिया से हट जाऊं, इफ आई गेट आउट ऑफ दैट रिवर, वो बिना सोचे आगे बढ़ेगी, एंड आई विल नेवर गेट बैक एंड नेवर कैच अप. सो what we are doing is constantly playing catch up. ये रील देखा, ये फिल्म देखा, ये OTT प्लेटफॉर्म देखा, ये पॉडकास्ट सुना, कुणाल कामरा का और एक नया इंटरव्यू निकला है, वो सुना, नहीं सुना, क्या कर रहे हो, जिंदगी बेकार हो जाएगी. This pressure is so intense that sometimes the book becomes a refuge, कि आप इससे हट सकते हो. For me, a book is a dharmshala. You can actually sit down and it is quiet. It is not demanding your time. It is saying your time. You want to read a sentence, you want to read it 3 times, पढ़ लो. You want to stop reading, turn the page, कर लो. It's literally a liberation from this. एक छोटा सा प्रतिशत होगा आबादी का, of the population, that will always step out and seek refuge. Not all, not every way, but they will be. That's a fixed number. And that, as you begin to get more and more suffocated by information. You want something that has been safeguarded. पहले एक ज़माने में कहते थे ना, मैंने अखबार में पढ़ा, and that was the stamp of authority. आजकल I don't think even that is true. लेकिन मैं किताब में पढ़ा, that still holds some significance, which is why I find it very difficult when publishers give up their fact-checking departments, outsource their editing.
एक और चीज़ जो मतलब जब हम डिस्ट्रैक्शंस की बात करते हैं और ये कि लोग अभी किताबों को इतना समय नहीं दे पा रहे जो पढ़ना चाहते हैं, वो एक तो एक्सेस का इशू है और दूसरा सोशल मीडिया एंड द मेनी डिस्ट्रैक्शंस. मार्टिन स्कॉर्सेज़ी का एक कोट है, द मोस्ट पर्सनल इज द मोस्ट क्रिएटिव. Had you known this quote before?
No.
Yeah, but looks like you
Huh,
followed it
sounds like-
deeply.
yeah.
So in your writings, you write about your family, where you come from, and you have used humor as a coping mechanism. तो आपका प्रोसेस क्या है? मैं भी लिखना चाहता हूँ मेरे आसपास के लोगों के बारे में, बट वो मैं छुपा नहीं सकता कि उन्हें पता चल जाएगा joke is on them. So you take that risk and you kind of do these things. How did you discover this space? How did you go so inward and personal? And what was the process of doing that work?
To begin with, शुरुआत में जब लिख रहा था मैं, तो मेरे परिवार में लोग कहते थे I saw your name in the paper. और उसके मैं बहुत खुश होता था. I mean, because a byline is a byline. You're in public now. तो मैं पूछता था कि आपने पढ़ा? And they would say, no, where I have the time to read. But I saw your name in the paper. And that was enough. And मुझे I realized from that कि मेरे परिवार में खास करके लोग नहीं पढ़ने वाले. अगर वो बुक में है भी तो नहीं पढ़ने वाले. So it is a great liberation. शुरुआत में जब सर्वाइविंग विमेन द फर्स्ट बुक केम आउट, मेरी बहन बहुत खुश होके ढेर सारे कॉपीज खरीदी और जाके बांटी. सारे परिवार में एक को एक कॉपी दिया, मुझसे साइन करवा के दे दिया. और जब मैं उनके घर जाता था पता चलता वो एक बुक है कि उसके पास बाइबल है, उसके पास एक टेलीफोन डायरेक्टरी, याद है वो जमाना, टेलीफोन येलो पेजेस हुआ करता था, और एक रेसिपी बुक. 4 बुक्स थे. सो आई वुड pinch the book, I would steal it back, okay? And किसी को पता नहीं चला, किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ा. So I think this is a लिख ले. If you feel like it, Kunal, लिख ले. No one will notice. And if they notice, they will not believe it is them. They will think it is somebody else. Because मैं तो ऐसे नहीं हूँ. Very few people have self-consciousness, so don't worry, लिख ले. Second is, I think, जहाँ surviving, I mean, M and the Big Hoom की बात है. That was my story, और I think that was the first story I wrote. मैं 16 साल का था या 14 साल का जब मैं पहली बार मैंने कोशिश की कि मेरी कहानी मैं लिख डालूं. I think you need to be mature enough to be able to write a story that you want to write. But I have a very good 30 meter, which is, can you read something that you wrote and say, भाई ये बहुत खराब है, किसी पे जुल्म क्यों कर रहे हो? Tear it up here only. Okay? If you have that meter inside your head, then it becomes very easy to control your writing, because you know when you're writing badly. And how do you develop that meter? You develop that meter by reading a lot. When you have read a lot of good work, if you have read all the masters of India in 3 languages, and you have read in English, you're ready to judge yourself. And you must be harsh on yourself. You can't let yourself write what you feel like. Actually, you should let yourself write what you feel like. दिन दहाड़े लिखते जाओ. I think Brendan Behan कहता था, he was an Irish novelist, write like you're drunk, but edit stone cold sober. When you edit, you become like that harsh teacher, okay? Father so-and-so who is correcting with a red pen. Cut. Make sure it is tight. Make sure it's good. Make sure it's ready. Because ये जो किताब है वो आपका ambassador है. You have met me. Some people have met me. But thousands of people will see this book with my name on it. They will judge me on that. So then what I send out into the world has to be good. Now, everyone said, I have never attended a writing class or a workshop or done any MFAs or anything. But jitna bhi maine suna, they all said, write what you know. Now what do I know? I know Mahim. I know the family. I know my life. I can use that. And so I used it because that's my story. I have four people had writes over that story. My father, my mother, my sister, and me. Okay. By the time I wrote M and the Big Hoom, my father and my mother were no longer with us. But I told my mother I was writing. I would say, I'm writing about you. You be careful. And she would say, Kyun? Why are you writing about me? Write about some busty blondes and do some car chases and diamond smuggling. Then you'll make some money. Okay. So she was fine with me writing about her. And my sister, I showed her the book before I published it. She said it's fine. And so I published. Okay. I don't think a book is worth hurting anybody because people get hurt. So I wouldn't hurt anybody deliberately, but it was my story also, and I had to tell it. And since then, it seems to have inaugurated a discussion on mental health. Okay, I didn't mean it that way. I meant it to be a novel. If it did that, very good. Because I'm not. I very early decided कि इसमें शर्म की बात नहीं है. ये मानसिक रोग है. और रोग में शर्म किस बात की? Right? If your body is not functioning, अगर आपका इंसुलिन कम है तो आपको डायबिटीज हो जाता है, आपको सेरोटोनिन कम है तो आपको डिप्रेशन हो जाता है. What is to be ashamed about that? What we have to do is try and do something about it. And where the disease is incurable, where we can't do anything about it, हमदर्दी जताओ. At least that much we can do. We can show some sympathy for the person. ये शर्म किस बात की? बहुत जहरीली चीज है ये शर्म. It makes you, जब M and the Big Hoom के readings चल रहे थे, people would come up and would stand up and tell me terrible things that they had done. मेरे बच्चे को, भगवान से बात से आवाज आ रही थी. Like, I mean, God was talking to him. And we didn't know what to do. So we locked him in his room for 5 years. And then someone came and told us, that chap, he thought he was hearing from Mars. And then वो फलाना डॉक्टर के पास ले गए. They gave him some drugs. He's fine now. He's got married. And then suddenly they realized, oh, it's a psychiatric problem. उस वक्त तक it wasn't even you don't even have that awareness.
You didn't have the words to describe
you don't exactly, and if you don't have the words for it, if the language is not there, it's very difficult to deal with.
Especially diabetes or like mental health थोड़ा अलग है because diabetes तो आपके आसपास के लोगों को पता है ना कि शक्कर नहीं देनी है, इंसुलिन देना है, दवाई देनी है. Psychiatry still doesn't have a cure. So it's about doing a lot of things which have medical approval and then kind of working towards a better day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in that you've used humor as a coping mechanism also. So what made you, kind of, because मेरा ये है कि we can always find jokes in people we love.
Absolutely.
Because we observe them a lot.
Yeah.
What prompted you to kind of go in that direction, to take this real scenario and then just pepper it with humor every now and then?
There's that dreadful Hindi film line, हंसी तो फंसी.
Yeah.
Okay. I think अगर हम नहीं हंसते तो फंस जाएंगे and दलदल में फंसेंगे. Because if you look carefully and clearly at the world, it's a mess. How else are we supposed to deal with it if we don't laugh at it?
कुछ विदूषक लोग इस तरह के हैं जो भारत को बदनाम करने की कोशिश करते हैं.
स्टैंड अप कॉमेडियन कामरा, इन्होंने एक गीत के माध्यम से महाराष्ट्र के पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री और विद्यमान उप मुख्यमंत्री श्री एकनाथ शिंदे जी को अपमानित करने का प्रयास किया है. ये गलत है, हम इसकी निंदा करते हैं. ऐसी चीज़ों को सहन नहीं किया जा सकता.
इसके मध्य प्रदेश में कार्यक्रम ही ना होने दें हम, जब तक ये खेद व्यक्त नहीं करें, तब इस पर विचार करें.
But laughter is very dangerous. Okay, the reason why many sort of people in power are really frightened of comedians is because of the power of laughter. And this we have seen right from the time of Akbar and Birbal. There were times when Birbal would say something and Akbar would send him away from court angrily, right? You see it in the form of the Vidushak, who points out the stupidity of the king. You see it in Lear and King Lear and his fool, that the fool is not just a fool. The fool is someone who is from that position of foolishness, pointing out what is wrong in our society. Very difficult to take. So laughter is a very, very powerful weapon, and those who can make people laugh are very powerful. They are actually the unacknowledged legislators of our world. they determine the course of events. Who you can laugh at and who you make successfully a joke is really part of history. Literally, because names become part of history, nicknames that have been invented, drawings, all this becomes part of history, right? So I completely understand why it is that your tribe has such a difficult time.
एक मुनव्वर फारूकी नामक वो सुअर का बच्चा
really stupid comments, stupid and vicious comments, like saying that in India, women are worshipped in the day and gang raped at night.
It's not forgivable, but it's understandable. On the second part, I don't think you can live through, you can live through a problem without laughing. If you don't, there's something in us that will break. And once it's broken, it is very difficult to repair. So laughter then becomes that bridge that you jump over that crack. This is like you're beginning to crack, but if you can laugh, you can jump over it. So La Vita è Bella, life is beautiful, and Ghabritsa Paus, the Marathi film Ghabritsa Paus. They've showed us brilliantly in art how even when there's like farmer suicides going on, Ghabritsa Paus, you're laughing in 5 minutes. Starts with a farmer suicide, and then you're laughing. You're thinking, I shouldn't be laughing, but you're still laughing. And I think that is, we are capable of laughter. And that is why we can live with the fact that we know we are going to die. Many other, like apes laugh, orangutans laugh, baboons laugh, we are told. But men laugh because we do not cry. Humans laugh because we do not cry. Or because we can't always be crying. So humor is our refuge, just as much as a book is a refuge. Humor is a refuge. And when you have a family that is being torn apart by the fact that they love each other, and one person is hurting, they will laugh at some point. In Roman Catholics and Christians, we have what is called the wake, which is after the funeral, people come back to the house and everyone sits down and talks. 10 minutes ke liye there is quiet, everyone's saying, how sad he's gone. And then 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, they're laughing. They're talking because there's relief. Meri baari nahi thi. Mujhe nahi chuna Yamraj ne. That much, and then suddenly there's relief and laughter. And life comes surging back into that house. Because when we laugh, we say, life is still going on. It's okay, guys.
Coming back to how it's personal in terms of the geography you write about. तो क्या देख रहे हैं आप आज के माहिम और शिवाजी पार्क में, जो जब आप उसको डॉक्यूमेंट कर रहे थे उससे वो तब कैसा था?
माहिम में पालक उगती थी. There was a field where there was palak growing. Okay, school मैं विक्टोरिया स्कूल में जाता था तो
same by
अच्छा okay, इंच पिंच okay, सिटी लाइट सिनेमा से लेके विक्टोरिया स्कूल तक you could find at least 5 different things to eat on the street, like kacha badam, what they call country badams. There was mango trees. There were small like bushes with those black berries on them. Now there's nothing. And Mahim को discover किया जा रहा है. Okay, gentrify किया जा रहा है. धीरे धीरे what abracadabra buildings. छोटा सा building होगा, 3 महीने के बाद woof, tower. Okay. And what can you say except ये हर tower एक सपना है. Okay. किसी से भी पूछो जो चाल में रहता होगा या टेनेमेंट में या छोटे से बिल्डिंग्स में, 90% of them want to go and live in a tower. They want to have a lift. They do not know what the change in their lives will be like. They do not know how much they will have to pay for maintenance and whatnot. How that is going to be a problem to deal with. But they want to live in the tower. So I see those towers as ऐसे कि ये सपनों का घर है. Someone's home is going up there, right? So in some ways I have a feeling of understanding. I understand it. And in another way I feel deeply sorry because the streets are emptying. The life is going It's the life is being sucked out into the street and up into the tower, and so it goes out of the street, and that's really sad. So it's changed completely the Mahim I knew. I mean, we had the city's best bread.
With Bristol.
Crown Bakery.
Crown Bakery.
Yeah. And wo gaya. What has come in its place? One blasted metro, which is fine. The metro is useful, everything. Some way we could have kept Crown Bakery also and had the metro also. I think that would have been really lovely. Because it was great bread. Like international standard bread. I had French friends come, I would take them for bread there. Not to eat anything else, not patties, samosa, vagara, just bread. And they would say, wow, it was great bread. That bread with Amul butter, heaven. Cold Amul butter, hot pav outside. Zindagi ban jati hai. For half an hour, paradise. Ami ast.
Yeah.
Bread and butter.
I actually...
The Ragda.
Yeah.
Near St. Michael's Church.
Absolutely.
Right? Victoria Church ke paas wo bhel wala. There was so much. Dabeli pav on the sides. Shiva who sells cut jackfruit. Okay. For me, that's Mahim. That smell when you turn into Kataria Colony, Kataria Marg, walking towards the station, and that temple ka smell comes out. Right? But also the cow. Two cows were outside, who are standing outside. You get the cow smell also. So it's really powerful, and it is the smell of home for me. So that's Mahim for me.
I grew
up. Karnataka Hall. How could I forget Karnataka Sangh? Free concerts every Sunday morning, classical music. Everyone came to sing the rags they couldn't sing in the night. Because you have to sing those rags in the morning. You can't sing them when you have an evening performance. But Sunday morning you could sing those rags. And you walked in and sat down for 3 hours, you were transported. There was nothing, no moment so beautiful. That also is gone. But, I think if you just cross the road, my feeling, used to walk down Bhagat Lane and Neela Bhagwat would be singing. And you could hear her outside on the street. It was wonderful. It was such a lovely, wild place. Towards the end, there was Zakir Hussain, playing the drums. I mean, those huge drums at doors from time to time. He might just come down and play for 10 minutes and go back up. Okay. Sitara Devi lived there. Manto lived there. I mean, Mahim is Mahikavati.
Yeah.
The little place of miracles. Okay. I still think Mahim has got a lot of potential inside it. 3 or 4 Sindhi colonies, I think. Vivekanand, Kataria, Navjivan in that corner, and one more.
No, there are 2 Vivekanands. One on this side,
correct,
and one near Shobha.
Absolutely. So that's one bunch of them. Then the Muslims, the Christians were large. There were 2. There was a Parsi Bagh also. We were and Gurudwara. Right? We were Amar Akbar Anthony plus. Amar Akbar Anthony Amarendra. Extensions.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that changed was Cafe Cadle became Yes Bank.
I know, really.
So that was like, because college subah ko hai, kahan cigarette milega pehla. You go to Cafe Cadle, get a cigarette. I remember one of my friends, I cannot name him, but he used to get up in the morning and he used to tell his wife, walk pe ja raha hu, and he used to be at Cafe Cadle. Where else will you get beer at 6:30 in the morning? So 6:30 to 8, he's finished 3 bottles of beer before he goes to work, and then he has to just pretend like he's come back from a walk. Once you take away those places, those stories are gone.
Yeah, really.
They're just gone.
Yeah.
When you were in Victoria, Codress was teaching?
Yeah, of course, Still there.
Still there.
Still walks and goes to the market to get her own vegetables, and is very deeply embarrassed and angry when you buy them for. I have a pension.
Of course, she has a pension.
So it is, I think what I love about Mahim is that it is the big city. But if you cough, you fall into the khadi, then you'll be swept away, right? So it's like at the end of the big city. And for the longest time, we could not be gentrified. Like whatever came, we just drove them out. But now slowly, subway has come, and this has, there are, we bake our own bread, It's like I was going to say something rude about their bread, but anyway, no doubt they make their own bread.
Yeah. So apart from writing, and focusing on that, you have also been an advocate on translations and why they are so important. And I would like to hear when did you figure this love with translation, and how in times of today translations can go horribly wrong.
My first sense that translation could go horribly wrong was on TV. I was sitting and watching Rajiv Gandhi doing a tour of Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
And he was asking in a general happy way, how are things, what is going on, and whatnot. And one woman came, older woman, and she gave him a severe lecture in Tamil. We could tell that she was really annoyed. And the translator, and he looked at the translator as if to say, like, what is she saying? And the translator said, without batting an eyelid, everything is fine, sir. She's saying everything is all right. And even he looked a little skeptical at that. Okay, so then you realize that this is when translation has the problem. The next thing is subtitling in films. Okay, we're supposed to be like this big industry, and for a long time nobody wanted to see Hindi films except us, right? But now the world wants to see Hindi films. Who do you have subtitling? You subtitle so badly. There was a song, Let Me See Your Jerky Style. Latak Matakke is your jerky style. Seriously? I mean, songs are poetry at their best, right? So when you do the subtitling of a song, you're actually trying to write a poem that will work on screen in a very short time, which can be read very quickly, understood very quickly. So I subtitled about 2 or 3 films, not very many, but I did them with films that I liked. I wouldn't do a film that had a message that I'm not comfortable with. But I think translation is the lifeblood of this country, because we have 1,537 languages at present, and we haven't finished counting them. Right? There are those many languages. If we are supposed to hold together as a nation, we have to translate, because we can't say there will be one language. There will not be one language. Na Hindi wo kaam kar sakti hai, na Angrezi wo kaam kar sakti hai, na Tamil, na Telugu. No one can do it. It must be that we are willing to listen to the other person, and we are willing to accept the other person's point of view. Now, बहुत सारे लोग कहते हैं कि मैं बाइलिंगुअल हूँ, मैं ट्राइलिंगुअल हूँ, मैं मल्टीलिंगुअल हूँ, मैं 4 भाषा बोल सकता हूँ. Possibly. But how do you use those languages? You use those languages on the basis of getting your work done. कि मैं मराठी बोलता हूँ तो I speak it to a certain class of people. मैं हिंदी बोलता हूँ तो I speak it to a certain class of people. When I am with my kind of person, I speak English. Right? That's when I'm comfortable. This is what the new generation is. यहाँ तक कि someone told me a Hindi journalist told me on a film set, he said, यहाँ हिंदी कोई बात नहीं करता है, सिर्फ spot boys बात करते हैं. The stars and the directors all speak English, right? And they have to have, like, they talk English, and then suddenly they come in front of the camera and they start speaking Hindi again. Okay? So, very simply, मैं तुम्हें जी जान से चाहता हूँ, मैं तुम्हें मोहब्बत करता हूँ. These are gone. I love you, Rahul, is how it is said now, right? That's Hindi cinema for you. So, in some senses, any loss of language is a loss of humanity. It shrinks us a little. If we don't have. And I think in a city like ours, you walk out into the street and there's Malayalam, there's Hindi. When Time Out magazine was coming out, discovered how much theatre there is in Bombay. Angrezi, Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, Tamil, Malayalam, Konkani. 7 languages. Theatre every week happening. Okay, that's incredible. And theatre, poetry, reading, this is language. To say, I can tell my driver where I want to go, that's not using Hindi. That's not using Hindi. Hindi is when you're reading Harivansh Rai Bachchan. That's Hindi. Okay, or you're listening to Amitabh Bachchan read Harivansh Rai Bachchan, which is like a treat. It's beauty in your ears, okay? Whatever you may think of the actor, whatever you may think of his politics, just the way he reads his father's poetry, with respect and with dignity, with like all of the Ganga flowing through it, right? It's just like incredibly beautiful. And that's what I value. That's what translation can do. Because think about it, Kunal, it's dangerous for me to say these days, but I will say it anyway. What do we know of our religions that we do not know in translation? Jesus, I use this instance now because it's easier. Safer than saying anything about how Hindus learn their religion. No doubt everyone speaks Sanskrit. Yeah. But for Jesus spoke Aramaic. He was translated into Greek and then translated into English, and then I'm reading it. Right? How many translations is that? But everywhere across the country, anyone who's a Christian is telling their child a story about Jesus in that language, in Malayalam, in Tamil, in Hindi. We know even our religion in translation. Parsis, certainly. Yeah? Muslims who have to read the Quran in Arabic, who will not allow translation of the Quran because it is so specific to that language, right? Will still be told about Al-Hamya and stories of Al-Hamya and Muhammad Paigambar will be told the stories in the language of the region. And will learn good and bad from that telling. So, what's not translation? At one point, Jadunath Sarkar says Marathi was spoken from Cochin right up to Delhi. But because the Marathas were an empire, they were a force. You had to learn their language if you wanted to deal with them. So you did. Yeah? It's just as today, if you want to deal with China, hey, get Mandarin. Yeah? And then discover that the person sitting in front of you speaks Cantonese and doesn't speak Mandarin. It's like, what? I spent 25 years trying to get that, like the sounds, and you're speaking another language. Yeah, happens.
But currently, like how the billionaires are trying to colonize our mind and they want to make everything easy and translations just on a click.
Absolutely.
Where do you think that is going to take us and how could we resist it?
See, I think one of the things that really sad things is that only rich translators are translators who do legal documents and manuals and non-literary work. Okay, they are going to lose a lot of their work because those are like for a large language learning system or whatever they call it. Those are easy butter jelly jam walk in the park. No one is going to get an Aga Shahid Ali poem into Marathi with a language learning model, not in the foreseeable future. Now, some young person listening to this podcast is going to write in and tell you, Kunal, what is he talking? He is of his generation. He doesn't know I'm working on this cutting edge app. Yeah, sweetie, you've been working on that cutting edge app, and we were all frightened of computers when they came because they said they would take all our jobs.
Electricity.
Everything that came down the pike, now we were terrified that it would mean we were going. This is the first time the billionaires are saying, you won't have to work. And now I'm thinking, without work, what is your ikigai? What is your reason to get out of bed? Right? Because for most people, the reason to get out of bed is the economic need to make money, which drives 90% of the people to their jobs. And for the 10% who are lucky, they like doing their jobs. So they'll get up and do them anyway. So tomorrow someone said, I can get AI to write a poem in the style of Jerry Pinto. So I said, but jab tak Jerry Pinto jeeta hai, why waste your AI? I can't write you the poems, those poems. When I'm dead, feel free, put this thing in. So right now the hallucinations are amusing me endlessly because AI has learned, from all its learning, it has learned to be a human and to dissimulate, to tell lies, to invent stuff. It's taking even those like elements of our dreadful nature and putting it out. I think that's wonderful, and it should give the billionaires headaches for a while, because if billionaires don't get headaches, we won't get a cure for headaches.
Yeah, that's true. So one other thing I want to talk to you about is that every place that creates that literature has something very peculiar of their politics or their social structure. So in Asia, what do you think you observe when you read like different cultures, like how are we separate, or how do things change? Because I also realize that when I'm talking to my friend about his life, विशाल क्या चल रहा है, क्या कर रहा है, ये वो, but suddenly when I start talking to him about his daughter who's studying in the US, I switch to English. It just happens.
Yeah.
There's no reason to it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that I've noticed about myself, but I'm sure जब अलग-अलग जगहों से लोग लिखते हैं, कुछ तो होता होगा that kind of subconsciously sets them different from.
You know, South Asia की बात अगर आप कह रहे हैं तो one very important thing is hierarchies. Hierarchies seem to be universal. In Japan, in Korea, all that bowing, you know, that they do. None of that will be reflected in the literature. You read Haruki Murakami, you think everybody is like really chill. But that's because he's invented that landscape. You work in a Japanese office and you see how hierarchical it is. It makes in the Indian caste system, I mean, it's very familiar. It's like that. Except that theirs is a little more meritocratic, which means if you have become the boss, then you are my Brahmin now. Okay, it's that sort of thing. So it's all over the place. And then the outbreaks of violence, like in South Korea, when they beat people in South Korea, when they fight, they really fight. In Bombay, when the fight is, and then both your friends will pull you back and stop you from fighting. And like, it's a managed violence, okay? So that actually, I mean, if someone hits someone really, then things get serious. Then all cards are off the table, then it can go anywhere. But most of the time, because we are 25 million people all jostling, we will intervene to stop the violence. And they don't. South Korea. When they beat, they beat. When they drink, okay? Like, I mean, it is Punjab meets Malayali meets Goa, like that kind of drinking, serious drinking. And other than that, I really keep thinking, see, what we read of, say, Japanese literature, South Korean literature, or, I don't know, even Burmese literature, will be the top of the iceberg. It will be like saying, judge the whole of society on the basis of Premchand. It won't happen. It's not, because these are also, literature is not just a reflection of reality, but it's also a wish list for reality. कि ऐसा अगर होता तो कैसा होता? That's also a question that people play with. And then they will put together the best of what their ideas are for the country, which for me, Amar Akbar Anthony is a very good example. Okay? अगर ऐसा होता तो कैसा होता? What if Hindus and Muslims and Christians could all live together in perfect amity and, you know, like get together and save the girls at the end? Amar Akbar Anthony. Yeah? अनहोनी को होनी कर दे, होनी को अनहोनी. एक जगह जब जमा हो तीनों, Amar Akbar Anthony. Where have they come together? In this country. What do? They all give their blood for the country. In that great sequence where the blood goes out of one person's vein and joins the blood from the other person's vein and from the third person's vein. And my friend sitting next to me, British friend, said, hasn't he heard of the law of gravity? The blood is going up like that. And I wanted to say, gravity ko maro goli. This is a metaphor. Okay, because the whole theatre is weeping when that song in the background says, क्या इसकी कीमत चुकानी नहीं, खून खून होता है पानी नहीं. And they're all giving blood to their mother. Okay, and like, I mean, in that was the lost Bollywood. That was the lost dream of what they call secular and libtard now, which we called
normal
life, yeah.
Yeah. You've pressed enough on translations and the need for us to read different literature.
See, one of the things that I think, Kunal, is for 20 or 25 years, I read only in English. Okay, so शुरुआत Enid Blyton से, then Alistair MacLean, then Robert Ludlum, and then Graham Greene, and then slowly I became, like college में Intel type हो गया, so I started reading, but I was only reading English. And I now think of myself as the kind of person who discovers that he likes chicken masala. There's a whole buffet in front of him, but every day he goes and eats chicken masala. Now the cook is making different versions of chicken masala every day and putting them down. But this man is only eating chicken masala. Gada hai na? There is a nice dish on this side. There is a nice dish on this side. Here is Hindi literature. Here is Marathi literature. We know these languages. We can read these scripts. Why would we not read them? Why would we not? Why would we keep on eating this chicken masala? What we would not do to our mouths, we do to our brains. So why not read from when we can? Because our educational system, however tuta-puta it was, however bad those schools were, they gave us this skill. They gave us Nagri as a gift, a manat karke diya. Now we have to take it out and use it. And people say to me, oh, but when I read Hindi, I read very slowly. Very good. Read slowly, absorb, read aloud, enjoy. Wake up your mind with, and they say when you read in different scripts, your brain, kind of like responds differently and you can retard Alzheimer's and whatnot. Time to be doing that. Nothing is lost. Sindhi is not lost. We just need a handful of kids to say, I'm starting. I'll read. And it will come back. If Israel could do it with Hebrew, Sindhis can do it with Sindhi. It's a great language. It has great poetry in it. At one point, I remember Jai Hind College had two of Sindhi poetry's greatest poets, Arjun Shad and Popati Hiranandani, on their campus. And we lost. I mean, they retired and gone away now. I don't know if there is I'm sure there is a Sindhi department in Jai Hind, but I would think...
I don't think so.
But I hope so. But anyway, I'm feeling that I think it is time for us to just... See, our nationalism and our pride is lazy. We don't want to put in the work. We just want to be proud, right? So we have so many things to be proud about in this country. We choose the most nonsensical things. And instead of saying, okay, I could make this a genuinely magnificent experience for myself. This being in India, if as I walk down the street, right, I am now responding and looking at Mahim through the eyes of Manto. Now I am looking at Mahim through the eyes of Sitara Devi, who lived here as well. If I know what my city, if I know my state, if I know the literature in different languages, my eyes change, my mind changes, but my zuban changes. But if I do not do that work, it will not be, AI cannot do it for me. I have to do the work. And once I do the work, everything changes and the world becomes richer and more exciting. Please read, and please read in not just in English, but read in your mother tongue, read in your home language, read in a language that is not your home language as well. Bring all this into the room and see how the world changes. So,
that's great. That's amazing. I wish other guests did that also. So, another thing I want to ask you was like, even when you get sucked into reading something, where people have a lot of issues, like, where do we start? And how do we continue?
Okay. So the first thing I think, the easiest thing to do, I think, is to go to a bookshop and open a book and smell it. Okay, the smell of a book is very nice. It's something exciting about the smell of a book. And then don't read the back. Don't read the blurbs. Don't read Shashi Tharoor telling you that this fellow's book is very nice. They're probably good friends. Not even Shashi Tharoor. Don't trust Jerry Pinto's blurb on something else. Okay. Yeah. Instead of which, trust your instinct. Read half a page and see, is this your kind of book? If it is your kind of book, take it home and read it. Okay. And you'll be fine with it. Now, if you don't like it even after you've taken it home, it's all right. Give it as a gift to somebody else and buy another book and try it. Okay. Better still, join a library. When you're in a library, you can take a book home free. Like, libraries generally have a set membership for a whole year. Like, pay 500 rupees. Now you can take 2 books each time you come to the library. Wow. Now you can now read like 200 books if you want for 500 rupees. That means you're paying like 2 rupees 50 paise a book. What a deal a library is, right? Then if you like the book, you can buy a separate copy for yourself outside. Okay? There's a possibility. That's why I think libraries are such a great idea. Yeah. Circulating libraries like we had, right? Prabhat circulating library, Victoria circulating
Victoria
library.
is still there, right?
Park is still there. Yeah. Big Victoria is still there. Park circulating library. Koshish used to be there. There was another one that did great book binding. All those books I read and then returned. And what I liked, I bought for my personal library. So, okay, that's where you start. Join a library, read randomly. Okay. Second, I think, how do you keep reading? You remind yourself that, you know, the computational power that nature has packed behind your eyes defies the universe in complexity, I'm told. It is much more complex than the entire universe. So the universe is just stars and gas and emptiness and dark matter, which we don't know about. Your brain is wildly more exciting than that. Why would you waste it? And reading is one surefire way of keeping that mind alive and activated and engaged. So now that you finish this, when you finish this podcast, put down that phone and go out and get a book. And read a book. Okay, you don't want to read a book, you want to read it on your phone, sure, read it on your phone, not a problem. The only problem is those notifications keep coming and distracting you, so you don't read continuously. Just a book is like nice. You're not going to be distracted by anybody. And if you hold a book up in front of people and you're reading, they just think you're a lot smarter than most other people. It's like having chashma, okay? Chashma plus book and you're a genius, like straight up. And you know what? The difference is that you will become a genius eventually if you read enough.
We've seen the last 10, 11 years of this political regime, and it's very tempting to discuss how they are trying their very best to take us as far away from reading as possible. Like,
संस्कृत एक वैज्ञानिक भाषा है जो सबसे कंप्यूटर फ्रेंडली लैंग्वेज है वो संस्कृत को कोडिंग लैंग्वेज बनाने वाले हैं क्यों नहीं कोडिंग ही है संस्कृत तो कोड है ना
मनुस्मृति का सपोर्ट करते हैं आपने मनुस्मृति पढ़ा है
मैंने मनुस्मृति पढ़ा है
जो बोलोगे किताब में उसी से सवाल करूंगी आप बताओ
मैंने मनुस्मृति भी नहीं पढ़ा है मैंने कुछ नहीं पढ़ा है आई टोटली एक्सेप्ट
फिर आप यहाँ
आई टोटली एक्सेप्ट
in recent times there's a general who wrote a book and suddenly that book is not a book anymore.
It's an issue.
It's just the issue. So what I want to ask you is, can you point out or have you experienced certain policy decisions that have taken reading or reading, like you said, without a purpose higher, except for libraries? Have you seen any implementation of...
Oh, the taxes on paper.
Yeah.
The taxes on paper have gone up, I think, about, I don't know, at least 3 times during the... And this is like a fundamental thing, right? When you tax paper, it means that books and notebooks and every other form of paper becomes more expensive, right?
जीएसटी का खेल निराला, नोटबुक पर जीएसटी 12% से घटाकर 0% किया, लेकिन फिर भी नोटबुक महंगी होती नजर आ रही है क्योंकि सरकार ने कागज पर जीएसटी 12% से बढ़ाकर 18% कर दिया है.
So it's not just reading that then gets affected, it's also writing that gets affected. We live in a country of simultaneously book satiation. Like the kids in my family, when I go for their birthday parties, they look at me and think, wo bore uncle aa gaya hai. Bore uncle will bring books for gift. Okay? We don't want books. They're satiated because they go to schools with libraries and they have books at home, etc. But there are also children who live in tribal areas. I know when I was working with Male Joel, which used to do social and financial education with children, I met this tribal girl who had copied out a storybook and taken it home because she wanted to own one book. And so she copied out a book and took it home. And that was
copied out by hand.
By hand. And took it home. And now she owned that book. It was a very simple thing, some Tales of Birbal or something like that. But she'd copied it out and now she had her own book. So we have that tribal girl at one end and my family's children at the other end. And then everybody else wandering in between. Yeah? You have big cities or major cities which don't have a good bookshop. Okay? That's another thing. If you, because a book is an object, right? So the object has to be transported. Now, you have to take, if Jerry Pinto writes a new book tomorrow, it must appear in a bookshop in Shillong, it must appear in a bookshop in Kochi, it must appear in Srinagar, it must appear in Ahmedabad, hopefully, not always, but hopefully it should be, right, then all those 4 areas, which means a truck has to go carrying those books down there somewhere. And so distributors take a huge cut of the price of a book. And the fact of the matter is, I think, our university system is being eroded from within. It's really being eroded from within. You don't have people at the university level. We now have contract workers. Okay, so it's not, in the old days, a university was known by its department, and the department had a legendary teacher, and that teacher who knew everything about so and so, and everybody went to attend those lectures. That's going now. We're just having people who will come in and do correct the papers, set the exams, they're not, and that is another thing that deeply worries me.
AVENE
11 ठीक है सर
11
19 बताइए सर ये 19 है सर एक बार स्पेलिंग बताइए इसका
NINTHTHIN
मैडम चलिए आप पढ़िए आप पढ़िए ये पूरा पैराग्राफ पढ़िए She should be suspended immediately. इसको पढ़ने देते क्या पढ़ाई बच्चों को? Even teacher, she can't read. She can't read English.
EANDERGEROUS Dungers.
The fact that when we opened up our education system, and we got all these very fancy universities where 38 lakhs mein BA. 38 lakhs?
Yeah.
My entire education didn't come to more than $10,000. And that's what we've decided, that education is actually not a necessity. It's a luxury. It's a privilege. So we now have those ones. Then we have the autonomous institutions. We have those degree courses where you have to pay $30,000 a sem, etc., a semester, etc. What are we doing to the education system? And how do you expect to have a broad-based literacy that provides the space for a literary environment? Okay. How do you expect all that when there's no investment in education at some fundamental level? And how could there be an investment in education when very, very few people in power have the courage to allow for thinking, have the courage to encourage thinking, to push people to think so that then the critique can improve all of us? What would we do if every teacher in this country graded every student A? How would anybody improve? Where would there be a will to improve? It is as if the powers that be want us to grade them A all the time. There can be no critique. And if there is critique, then it means that you are some terrible anti-national person. Right? So these are all the things that are making it much more difficult for, I think, creative people to be creative, because the fundamental notion of the creative is the anarchic. It will push against everything, right? And if you stay within the safe bounds, you end up left behind. If tomorrow someone wanted to make a film like Nadiya Ke Paar, it is likely that it would not succeed. It was of its time a good film. It had some lovely music in it, but it was of its time. We cannot expect to be repeating and staying within safe bounds and still be creating. We cannot become a world superpower without being an intellectual superpower. And we cannot be an intellectual superpower unless we are self-critical, self-analytical, look in the mirror, see what's wrong with yourself and change it. And that is what artists, thinkers, intellectuals have always helped us do. We can disagree with them, but our disagreements must be framed in the same arguments, in words, in narratives. I challenge your narrative not by throwing you into jail, but by saying you are wrong and proving you wrong.
From the political writers in the last, say, 100 years, who have been your favorite?
You know, very oddly, I have to say, I know he's not very popular right now, but Mahatma Gandhi is one of the big ones because he wrote quantities of stuff. Like, I mean, he really wrote a lot. And there was something in him that made him reach out and answer, you know, sort of letters and what in a really, really committed sort of way. I suppose Nehru, because he was a master of the elegant, you know, like, I mean, it's like, I remember reading a bunch of letters and then suddenly thinking, oh, but these are to a child. Like, he's written these letters to a child, how lucky she was. But I thought, oh gosh, the poor thing also, she just wanted a hug. And she got a disquisition on the Mughals. You know? Like, I mean, it was that kind of thing. Ambedkar, 100% for his anger and for his righteous anger against society. Other political writers, I think, you know, there were many of them. I think Parsai is very underestimated as a very sidereal, strange critique of the nation. This is brilliant writing. I think sometimes you read one and you think, my worldview has changed slightly. And they're all very short pieces, most of them, but so powerful and so brilliantly done. And there is never a moment when you feel that he is showing you his vocabulary. It's just like the simplest but the most elegant and powerful critique that you've read. I think Rabindranath Tagore had a great deal of courage when he confronted the nation by challenging nationalism, asking the questions about nationalism. Char Adhyay, the novel, suggests that many people joined the freedom struggle because they wanted to find, suitable boyfriends or girlfriends or things. And that really upset everybody at that time. But he had the courage to upset everybody. So the courage to upset people, even people who you know are your best friends and your close allies, is so wonderful. These are such powerful they're models in a kind of a way. I wish I could write with as much as Gandhi wrote, Like, we wrote one piece in a magazine. He wrote the magazine.
Yeah, absolutely.
What? Amazing.
And post-independence, you just mentioned Harishankar Prasad.
I think in South India, what I've read of the Tamils, some amazing anti-caste rhetoric, etc., etc. From P. Sainath, of course, for the analysis of India's poverty and backwardness. A woman called Geeta Ramaswamy, Land, Guns, Caste, Women. It's an autobiographical work, but serious analysis of what makes rural India tick also happens as you're reading it, as you're enjoying it. Yuganta by Iravati Karve, fabulous work. Caste as Woman by Vrinda Nabar. Very interesting, sort of like feminism for India in the 20th century. Iravati Karve, I'm sorry, I said that. Yeah, those are the ones that come to mind. Because I define the political as the cultural. I don't think there are, that political means that you must talk about political parties and elections. And you can't do that in independence as though ignoring the larger things that are happening in society. Everything has to come together. So for me, something like, Cuckold by Kiran Nagarkar is also a political tract because it's reinventing Mirabai in a way that, we have not had a reinvention for centuries.
And what's next for you as a writer?
I'm translating as always. So I'm translating a novel and I'm working on a second novel where I wrote a book called The Education of Yuri. So Yuri comes back and he confronts the Bombay riots of 1992. People say now. And I say, yeah, it takes time for us to process material. You can't work on things that happened to you yesterday. You can work on something that happened to you 20 years ago.
So I was 4 when that happened.
You
That
baby.
decided Victoria High School and not Don Bosco.
Because you could come home
fast.
Yeah.
So my mother was like, Don Bosco has a ground. He's so restless. I think he'll get into sports if he has the space. He'll play some sport or the
Yeah.
other. But my father was like, no. It has to be like
I can go there and pick him up and bring him
right
home.
now.
Yeah,
Because my father didn't have the option to be around.
Mm.
Like he had a shop to attend to.
Yeah.
And then they were like just Victoria High School. Which was in retro not a bad call at all.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
yeah.
my mom kept trying till I was in the 4th grade. Please get him to Don Bosco. Let's see if it happens. But it couldn't happen. But just to like, what about that period when there were Mahartis on the road or buses being burnt and riots all over Mahim and Shivaji Park? How do you look at that time from the lens of today?
From a long lens, from a very long lens, we look back when you're reading Manto and why he fled Bombay because there were riots and he was in that car and he could have been killed. You're looking at it and you're seeing a sequence that is unfolding itself out and a lack of political will to address the basic causes. So one of the things that I think that happened after 92 was the Mohalla committees, which was largely an initiative of citizens, concerned citizens who took the lead, and citizens from all walks of life and from all faith, all colors of the faith rainbow came together and said, we can't let this happen again. Sit down, let's talk about it, let's discuss each thing that happens. And I think history has shown us that talking it's tiring. It seems endless, it seems pointless, but it's the only way out. If Ireland is safe today and quiet, it's because they talked relentlessly through the process and came somewhere. If Punjab is quiet now, or was quiet for a while, and now suddenly we're talking Atankwadis again and stupid things like that. But anyway, if that Khalistan thing began to calm down and settle down, it was because relentlessly people talked their way through it. So I think to keep the dialogue open, to keep your ears open, to listen carefully, to listen to what someone else is saying, even if it's nauseating, it upsets you fundamentally, because if we all start shouting, we will have riots. We will explode again. It's almost inevitable. Because some word is going to be proved inflammatory. But when we are quiet and we listen to each other in quietness, I think then that is, a way forward slowly opens itself out. It's not easy, but it slowly opens itself out. It's like when interfaith marriage happens in a family, there's almost always one parent who, like, dafa ho ja mere nasron se, unhappy about it. But that kid comes along. 2 years later, that unhappy parent has also become a grandfather. And slowly a road has opened out to acceptance. Right? And I think this is what we need to work on. Time, on the fact that it's a city in a terrible hurry. It's a city in a terrible rush as well. But it's also a city with a great big heart. Okay? Like when the bombs blew up, the people from the slums abutting Matunga road station ran to help. They carried whatever bed sheets they had, very few of them, but they made stretchers and carried the dead bodies away, and they carried the people to the ambulances and to hospital. No one ever counted them in the heroes of that moment, but they were doing their work. They came with water. You'll see that happening when there's a flood and people come running up and offer you people sitting inside stranded in buses offering them water. I remember startling image once of this, July 26th, that terrible flood.
Yeah.
And I was walking down Tulsi Pipe Road, coming from Mahalakshmi to Mahim, and a man came walking up to me. He was carrying a dwarf on his shoulder. And because you're a journalist, you can ask. So he said, "Aap kahan ja rahe ho?" He said, "Main Vaikla ja raha hu." I said, the man who was carrying him lived in Parel. But because he saw that this was a little person and he would drown, he put him on his shoulders and carried him back to Baikala, right? And got him home. And I thought, like, there is something here that we need to just open spaces of quiet, open spaces of listening. And I think podcasts and interviews, long interviews, are really important formats in that sense, because they're listening formats. They're formats that encourage you to listen and pay attention and stop the noise in your head. Just listen to one voice at this point. Very importantly, I think that is the way forward. Dialogue is the only way forward. Shouting and abuse is never a solution. It may release a certain tension inside you. If you have that tension inside you, then but I'm also really sometimes terribly, terribly suspicious that the people who shout don't even want to shout. They shout because they think that that's the modus these days. That's how one does these things these days. You shout to get attention. And I think it is the quiet voices that eventually are the ones that have the greatest value. Parsai being a very good example of quiet but subversive and a voice that makes you think.
Absolutely.
Hey, shut up, ya Kunal. Shut up, ya Kunal. Shut up, ya Kunal. Shut up, ya Kunal. Ya Kunal.